All right, guys, how we doing, man? It's been a while since we've had a live stream, and here we are, just days away from NFL free agency. Really, 2 days away. So about 48 hours, and the Baltimore Ravens have a prime opportunity to make themselves a better football team. And let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me all right, if the audio is coming through, so that way we are good to go. But man, we got to talk about the breaking news. I guess it's not too breaking anymore. Yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens extended Justin Madubuike to a 4-year, $98 million contract. And the pass rusher that led the Baltimore Ravens in sacks, he ain't going anywhere. In fact, he led all of the entire interior defensive linemen in the entire National Football League in sacks. That was absolutely absurd, man. This guy is on the come up. Justin Madubuike, really excited, man, that we kept him locked up because, first of all, Justin Madubuike, man, he's gotten better every single season. A sack the first year, 2 sacks the second year, 5.5 his third year. Contract year, he has 13 sacks, man. And it's so crucial. It's rare to find 3 techs like that can consistently disrupt the passer, man. I saw a stat that whenever he was on the football field, man, the Ravens had a pressure rate of like over 40%, which is absolutely absurd. And whenever you get that interior juice, man, that interior pass rush, it affects the quarterback a little bit differently than just having a guy scream off the edge. When you have a guy scream off the edge, the quarterback can flush one way or the other, or they can step up in the pocket. When you have a big, hulking, 280-pound monster and Justin Madubuike in your face, right up the gut, you can't step up. And if you try to flush and your edge rushers are setting a good edge, man, it's a really effective rush plan. I think Justin Madubuike, obviously a huge reason why the Ravens led the NFL in sacks last year. Absolutely absurd. And I'm fired up that he's staying here in Baltimore. Eli, he said, imagine if we had the money to get Wilkins from Miami to go alongside of him. That would be absolutely insane if the salary cap wasn't a thing. I'm sure Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh and Zach Orr, the new defensive coordinator, would be all over that. But hey, man, I just miss you guys, to be quite frank. I miss you guys. I'm on a course right now at work, so it's been absolutely crazy with my time right now, but I miss you guys. So I wanted to hop on here, interact, send everything in the comment section below. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer as many as possible. But free agency opens up in 2 days. And now the Ravens, since they got that move done with Justin Madubuike, they went from like $9 million over the cap to basically cap compliant. So they're sitting basically at $0 right now in cap space. But it's better than they were a couple of days ago before the Justin Madubuike. Eli says, are we going to keep OBJ or not? I don't think that Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back. I think he's going to fill out the market. He's probably going to get a good deal, maybe around $10 million to go play for like the Jets with Aaron Rodgers or the Chiefs or some other football team. As much as I would like to see Odell back, I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong, though. Getting Justin is huge. The Ravens should sign Calvin Ridley. Speaking of this, I don't think they're going to be able to afford Calvin Ridley. But someone says you hear Chiefs are looking at Dobbins. That would make me super salty. I was thinking about this the other day where watch Dobbins go sign with some other team for like $2 or $3 million and then absolutely go off and stay healthy and be the running back we always knew he could be. Jeff Leggett, he says, I like Leggett a lot. But talking about the Ravens signing Calvin Ridley is probably not going to happen. But I have a couple of guys here we're going to talk about. And this is not a comprehensive list, but I want to show you some of the targets that I like here. So my first guy here is DeAndre Swift. We know that the Ravens are in the running back market. It's been reported several times. Do we have a chance to get Mike Evans? No, he was actually re-signed by the Buccaneers, so he's not going anywhere. Give JK 1 year to prove himself. I would not be mad at that either. JK Dobbins was exciting, but injury prone. I'm okay with him leaving. So Let's talk about the Ravens being in the running back market, man, because they need another running back. The only two running backs really on their roster right now is Keaton Mitchell and Justice Hill. And Keaton Mitchell is recovering from a major knee injury. That hyperextension he had, absolutely brutal. Swift fits. I like that idea. He says Barkley's going to be expensive. Yes. So the reason why I like DeAndre Swift, let's get into it. First of all, he's a highly productive running back. Okay. So this last year with the Eagles, who, by the way, they run that RPO, the mesh point stuff with Jalen Hurts being that mobile quarterback. You already had that familiarity there with DeAndre Swift if he comes into the system with running some similar concepts with the mesh point. That's a huge, I would say, underrated aspect to have as a running back, having that experience. Because sometimes it takes a while for guys to get that mesh point down and to really feel it out. But so he's coming from a mobile quarterback system with Jalen Hurts. He's a big-time playmaker, super productive. Really, he was a workhorse running back last year, played in 16 games, and 229 carries for 1,049 yards, averaging about 4.6 yards a pop. And he added 39 catches for 214 yards. Talk about a true pass-catching running back. DeAndre Swift, he had 7.2 yards per catch his entire career, 1,400 receiving yards. He's explosive. He runs us like a sub 4.4. He runs like a 4.45 or something like that. He's still young. I believe he's 26 years old. Iced coffee break. So he's young. He's explosive. Doesn't have a lot of major injuries under his belt. And check this out, man. He has the familiarity with Todd Monken. Remember, Todd Monken, DeAndre Swift were at the University of Georgia together, and he has firsthand experience what that looks like. I think, this is just my assumption, no reports or anything like that, but I think some of the reports that the Ravens are interested in, like Barkley, Jacobs, Henry, there could be some real merit to that. They could also be smoke screens to distract other teams from who their real targets are. And I don't think that the Ravens, I don't know. I just don't see him shelling out like $10 million a year to a guy like Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs. I would absolutely love to see them guys in Baltimore. But I think more of the Baltimore Ravens type of move would be at a guy of that you're going to get similar production, still young, still talented, but not maybe as costly. And I think DeAndre Swift would be a little bit cheaper, despite, man, I think he's always been an underrated running back, man. He coming out of Georgia when he was with the Lions, he had a season where he caught like 50 balls for like 500 yards. So he's a true pass catching weapon. And we know that Todd Monken likes to use these backs in the passing game. I would love to see DeAndre Swift in Baltimore. If you're the Ravens, are you going to bring back Gus or J.K. Dobbins? I would be down to bring one of them back on a cheap deal. But, I'm not quite sure that, I don't know. We'll see, because, Gus kind of brings that physicality aspect. He's had some injuries. He does look like he's maybe lost a little bit of juice compared to, whenever he was, the first couple years of his season. Noah, can you give me your predictions on our first 3 draft picks? Man, we'll do some more mock drafts, man. They could go so many ways. I really like some of the offensive tackle prospects. I think if some of the top ones are gone, I could see the Ravens going receiver or edge, but so many factors there. I like Henry with Mitchell. That would be a fun aspect, a fun idea, because you have the physicality with Derrick Henry, who can also break one loose. Don't forget that guy's fast. And then you have like kind of a thunder and lightning combination, man. That would be fun. I say sign Derrick Henry and let Gus go. I would bring JK back for 1 year. Yeah, I would absolutely not be mad at this at all if he came back. If you guys have been watching for a while, man, I'm a huge J.K. Dobbins fan. It's just unfortunate he hasn't been super healthy. Lamont says, what do you think about Pollard? And shout out to Lamont, man. I appreciate Lamont. Lamont's been a long-term subscriber of the channel, and I always appreciate hearing his thoughts. He says, what do you think about Pollard? I like Pollard. I think Pollard's another guy who can catch passes, has some juice, still young. I think he's 26 or 27 years old and would be a little bit cheaper than some of these other guys where, every dollar counts in this year's salary cap, especially with how tight it is. So I would not mind seeing Pollard. I really like him as well. I like Pollard and DeAndre Swift, two of my favorite targets. Let's get to another guy, Derrick Henry, who we're hearing a lot about. Derrick Henry, man, I go back and forth on this because he's going to cost some money, but also at this point of his career, he might just want to go to a place where he can, has a chance to win a Super Bowl. The Ravens were one game away from that this last season in the AFC Championship. And B, running backs know if you go play with Lamar Jackson and you play with the Ravens who like to run the ball, and I know they got away from that in the AFC Championship, but all season, man, they were actually the best rushing offense in football. One of the most efficient running offenses in football, even better as far as efficiency, yards per carry, and stuff like that than some of the years we had Greg Roman. So Todd Monken orchestrated an excellent rushing offense. And anytime you're playing in the same backfield as Lamar Jackson, and you have that threat to keep the ball with the quarterback, running backs are going to be successful. If you add that element with Derrick Henry, who already is a yards after contact machine, who just bounces off tackles, runs through guys, stiff arms guys, great vision, great burst, that could be a serious, serious problem for opposing defenses. So I'm not writing off the idea of Derrick Henry coming here to Baltimore. It's just I look at some of the other guys that are maybe a little bit younger or have more of a pass catching aspect to their game. But again, I would absolutely love to see Derrick Henry or, like we were talking about earlier, DeAndre Swift here in Baltimore. I'm also a Josh Jacobs guy. I like Josh Jacobs, but he's probably going to be the most expensive running back on the market because he hasn't been super injured. He's been super productive, and he's got a lot of accolades under his belt. The next guy I want to talk about, like we said, Josh Jacobs. He can also catch the ball really well. He's explosive. He's fast. He's got breakaway speed. He can pass pro. He can run in between the tackles, man. Get square with his pads and just bounce off tackles, similar to what we were saying with Derrick Henry. Not the same way, but he's got good contact balance, vision, got some burst, and is an excellent pass catcher. And I would love to see Josh Jacobs here in Baltimore as well. Henry is a runner, but will be effective catching the ball. He can catch the ball. He definitely has broken open some screens and stuff. It's just the Tennessee Titans never really used him in that fashion. Saquon better than Jacobs, better than Henry. Really, if I had to rank my guys right now, as far as who I would bring in, it would be number 1, DeAndre Swift. Number 2, Josh Jacobs. Number 3, Derrick Henry. Number 4, Saquon Barkley. Man, I'm not as high on Saquon Barkley. Like, I was really excited about him early in the process. Then I went back and watched some of the film. I looked at a lot of the injury history and then how much he would cost. Not that I would mind bringing Barkley here. He's just not my favorite target right now. Griffin's kind of saying the same thing. I like DeAndre Swift. He's still young and a good running back. Absolutely. Next guy I want to talk about, man. This might get some some hate, but that's all right. Tyler Boyd, man. Tyler Boyd is a big, physical, over-the-middle slot receiver who can also play on the outside and is super productive. He's been productive his entire year, no matter who throws him the football. Whether it was Andy Dalton, Ryan Finley, or Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd is productive. And Tyler Boyd is not going to cost as much as some of these other receivers out there in the market. Reminder, some of the other receivers out there in the market, because keep in mind, running or wide receivers under contract after next year, the only one is Zay Flowers. Rashad Bateman is going into his 4th year. We don't know if they're picking up the 5th-year option. And what I really like about Tyler Boyd is he's a contest. He's a beast over the middle of the field, and Lamar Jackson is great over the middle of the field. So it's kind of a nice pairing there. Plus, he can win on the outside. He's physical. And I think he's 29 or 30, but he's still playing really good football. You know what? Let's pull up this Tyler Boyd stats real quick because I just want to show you how productive he's been. So he's had two 1,000-yard seasons in his career. He has 6,000 receiving yards in his career and 762 yards in 2022, 667 yards in 2023. Another guy that shows up big time on third down, big time moments. He's 29 years old, super talented prospect, coming out of college and then productive his entire career. Like I said, a beast over the middle of the football field, something that would pair up nicely with Lamar Jackson. Let me know what you guys think about Tyler Boyd, because again, I'm looking at guys that could come in and instantly improve the Ravens and produce on the football field, but also not going to necessarily break the bank. Some of the other wide receivers that'll be out there include, I think Michael Pittman got tagged. Mike Evans already got signed, but Josh Reynolds, the Detroit receiver, I think he's underrated. Could be a decent option. Calvin Ridley, he had close to 1,000 yards this last season. He's probably going to cost some money. Darnell Mooney, he's a deep threat. He had 1,000-yard season. Then he had a bunch of inconsistent coaching and quarterback play. You could get him maybe on a cheaper deal and could be a nice investment there. Bate will have a breakout season, man. I absolutely hope you're right. But imagine this. Imagine Rashad Bateman has a breakout year and he's flirting with 1,000 yards, or he goes over 1,000 yards. He's absolutely capable of it. The talent's there, the route running. And then you got Nelson Aguilar and then Zay Flowers. Like Zay Flowers, Tyler Boyd, and Rashad Bateman playing at the top of their game, I think would be a really good trio that would give defenses problems. And then you throw in Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. That could pose some problems. We signed out Tyler Boyd and Nelly, both wide receiver 3. No, man, Tyler Boyd, I think he's at least a wide receiver 2. If you watch him, especially anytime T. Higgins or Jamar Chase has missed some time, Tyler Boyd, there's not a big drop off. Tyler Boyd steps up. Whenever you're in an offense with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, you're not going to get as many targets. That's just the reality. But whenever he's there, and he's filling in for those guys, man, there's no drop off. Ravens should trade Andrews to the Jets for Sauce Gardner in a second round. That way the Ravens can address the O-line. That's kind of a wild scenario. I don't think Mark Andrews is going anywhere, man. He's too important to this football team and the locker room, the DNA of this team. Greg Roman was always a problem. He would never give Lamar Jackson his weapons. That was maybe on Greg Roman, but also on the front office and the other coaching staff. Not all Greg Roman's fault there. Is Tyler Boyd a playmaker? I believe he is, man. He's clutch. He makes plays. Go watch the tape. What do you think about Lattimore? You talking about Marshawn Lattimore, the corner? Or are we talking about Alexander Madison? Someone mentioned him earlier. How do you think we should use both Likely and Andrews in the offense? Well, we got to see some more 12 personnel this year. We saw a lot of 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers on the football field. That makes a lot of sense because you want to get Odell on the field. You want to get Bate and Zay Flowers on the field. Then you want to get Nelson Aguilar, his snaps. We had a pretty deep wide receiver room this last year. And we played a lot of 11 personnel. I think we're going to throw in some more 12 personnel. And Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews on the football field at the same time is going to pose some problems. And then I think we need to add another wide receiver in free agency or early in the draft. You can never have enough playmakers. Let me ask you this. If, God forbid, Zay Flowers goes down with injury, how do you feel about the wide receiver room after that? If it's just Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar as wide receiver 1 and 2, how do you feel about that? Like I said, I believe Bateman is capable of being a wide receiver 1. The talent's there, but he hasn't been as consistent, hasn't necessarily been on the same page as Lamar Jackson, and he's dealt with injuries. That's just the cold, hard facts. That's the reality. Or if Bateman were to go down and it was just Flowers and Nelson, how would you feel after that? That's why I think that in today's NFL, you can never have enough playmakers. You got to be deep there. In a room with Tyler Boyd, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar, that would be really fun. That would be a deep room. And there's other receivers out there as well. Going back to the list, we got Josh Reynolds, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney, Curtis Samuel, Gabe Davis. He's a deep threat. He's probably going to, command a good amount of money. Tyler Boyd and DJ Chark. I know a lot of guys wanted DJ Chark last year. I think he had about 500 yards with the Panthers this last season. But again, it was the Panthers, and their offense was absolutely miserable. Next guy here, man. Jevon Clowney. I would absolutely love to see Clowney back. Problem is, how much money does him and his agent want? John Harbaugh said he talked to Jevon Clowney's agent at the Combine, and he said Clowney was happy for the first time after a season. So Clowney likes to be here. We loved having Clowney here. I think Clowney wants to win a Super Bowl at this point of his career. It was a great fit, hand in glove type of fit. So, hey, Clowney, man, let's get this thing done. I know we signed him for a very vet minimum type of deal last year. It wasn't a lot of money. He definitely deserves a pay bump. 9 sacks this last year. Super productive, disruptive, and great against the run. So I'd love to see Clowney back. The question is how much is it going to cost? I think if Clowney really wants to be here and there's a little bit of wiggle room there, they can find a fair number and make this thing happen. Because, again, the Ravens having extended Justin Madubuike, which was an absolutely phenomenal move, he's going to cause problems as a pass rusher. I still think we need another guy on the edge, and Clowney can be that guy paired up with David Ajabo, Odafe Owe, and then maybe draft another guy in the first few rounds of the draft. I'd love to see Clowney back. Again, edge is super important, man. You don't want to. You can be a little skinny at some positions. The positions I don't really like to be skinny at is edge, wide receiver, and corner. Other positions, man, you can get by, but man, edge, wide receiver, and corner, man, super important positions where you want to be deep at, you want to be really talented at. Bring Clowney back for sure, and Van Noy's would be great. Yes, Van Noy would be great to have back as well. I'd be down for either one of these guys. I want to see at least one of them come back. Clowney's going to cost more money. Van Noy, though, seems like he wants some more money as well. So, again, can the Ravens and one of these edge rushers come to a common ground? The thing here about this is there's a really deep free agent class of edge rushers. Here's another guy, D'Amico Autry. Super underrated player. This guy is a wrecking ball. He's physical, blows up runs, and bull rushes, and has violent, strong hands. To me, he screams Baltimore Raven. Autry, I remember going against the Titans a few times, just watching him, and Autry causing issues. He probably sacked Lamar Jackson a few times if I had to look it up, or at least hit him a few times, because anytime I've watched a Titans game, D'Amico Autry pops off the screen. He's big. He's physical. Kind of a little bit of Pernell McPhee-ish. If you guys remember Pernell McPhee, what type of impact he had. I would like to see D'Amico Autry. He can play outside linebacker. I'm not saying necessarily drop him into coverage a bunch, but I think he could fit into our system, and you could also rush him inside at times as well if you want to get creative. And we know the Ravens like to run a lot of stunts and stuff. D'Amico Autry, I think, would be a great fit. Edge rusher, man. If you haven't really heard of him, look him up, look up his stats, look up his highlights, watch some film, because D'Amico Autry is a great guy. And again, this is not a comprehensive list. Just a couple of names for this live stream I wanted to throw out there to get you guys thinking about, because free agency is right around the corner, 2 days until the legal tampering period opens up. And I wanted to talk about some guys that would not necessarily break the bank. That's why we talked about so far. Clowney, he'll cost some money, but he's not going to break the bank. Tyler Boyd, he's not going to demand as much money as some of these other receivers we talked about. Josh Jacobs, He's going to cost a pretty penny, but we had to talk about him because the Ravens are in the running back market. And then DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard. Those guys would be excellent fits here. And is he an outside linebacker or DN, if we're honest? He's a pass rusher. He's a football player, man. He's a defensive lineman. He can get after the quarterback. If you're asking for, what system he probably fits in, maybe, I don't know. I think he can play in a 3-4 or a 4-3. But again, if you want to bring him in as a DN or play some 3 tech, 5 tech, that's fine as well. I just think he's a great football player that fits as far as D'Amico Autry. Our next guy we have on here is Josh Uche. This guy's a real 3-4 outside linebacker. He's super athletic. You guys remember him coming out of Michigan a few years ago. Let's look up the stats real quick because pretty sure he's been pretty productive, but for whatever reason, I'm not hearing his name a lot. Here we go. Let's look at the stats. Yeah, so 2020 had a sack. 2021 had 3 sacks. 2022, 11.5 sacks in 27 tackles as well, and 2 forced fumbles. Then in 2023, 3 sacks. So, inconsistency there. But 6'3", 240 pounds. Good speed off the edge. He was a second-round pick in 2020, just a few picks after we selected J.K. Dobbins. And I remember really liking Uche coming out of the draft. And then having 11.5 sacks in a season, I don't think is a fluke. Maybe you can get 4, 5, 6 sacks in a season. You kind of stumble into some of them. 11.5 is not a fluke. And I like Uche. Maybe he's not a great run defender because of the size there. But, again, a guy that maybe is not going to break the bank. So, again, going through some of the guys, Josh Uche, D'Amico Autry, as far as some edge help, there's Derek Barnett, who's out there that wouldn't cost a ton of money. We have, let's talk about some other edge guys. Brian Burns, not going to happen. He's going to cost like 25, 30 million a year. But a man can dream, right? Danielle Hunter, that would be interesting if he really wants to come and, if the Ravens signed him for a few years, they could probably spread it out to where they could make it work on this year's cap. But again, probably not super likely with how productive he's been. And then Bryce Huff, man, I'd be willing to see what the market is for him. He could be an interesting guy depending on how much he demands. So Darius Smith, I believe, is a free agent, man. So Darius Smith, so frustrating because I believe we were supposed to sign him a year or 2 ago. I remember getting the news across my phone. It was reported that the Ravens and Zadarius Smith agreed on a deal. And I looked at the money and I was like, and it didn't even cost that much. Then I think he realized he messed up. And other teams started calling and was like, dude, no, I'll pay you way more than that. And he ended up backing out. And because it was agreed upon deal, it was during the legal tampering and not during actual free agency. And he ended up backing out. But so Darius Smith, Jonathan Grenard, going to cost a lot of money. Josh Uche could probably get cheaper. Andrew Van Ginkel, underrated guy. D'Amico Autry, Emmanuel Agba. Chase Young, I don't know how much someone's going to pay him. I've heard there's some effort issues there. That doesn't really scream Baltimore Raven to me because the Ravens want guys who play hard, run to the ball, don't take plays off, play the run well. And I haven't watched enough tape to know, but from what I've heard, speculation, I guess, what I've heard from people is that he doesn't play the run. He takes snaps off, and sometimes it's inconsistent. Derek Barnett, Jevon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy. Shout out to John Parsons for the super chat, man. I really appreciate that. Thanks for the Saturday Night Live chat, Noah. It's time to forget the disappointing end to last year and move on to our events this year, man. Yeah, it is what it is, man. I remember how bummed I was, that feeling, just because of how good the Ravens were, man. They really were the best team in football. A lot of other fan bases I talk to who know I'm a Ravens fan, they're like, dude, this was your year, to lose. And the Ravens did, man. They went out and lost it. They really kind of rolled over. They just did not play their best football against the Chiefs. They got out coached, they got out physical at times, and man, it was just a really disappointing, especially the first time the Ravens have ever hosted an AFC championship. But it's football, man. Like, this is what it's fun. I love watching football regardless. It sucks when your team loses, but football is fun. That's the awesome thing about being a fan, man. You ride with your team when the team's high, you ride with them when they're low. Fortunately for the Ravens, as Ravens fans, we don't have a lot of low years. The Ravens are competitive every single year. Even when Tyler Huntley was our quarterback, when Lamar was hurt, man, the Ravens were still in there fighting for playoff spots. Again, they were in the playoffs with Tyler Huntley a few years ago. It sucks, but it's football, man, and it's sports. That's why it's so fun. 31 teams and their fan bases go home disappointed because they didn't win it, and that's just how it is. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl, and every team every year thinks they have a shot. Derrick Smith screwed the Ravens over. Don't think EDC was too happy. Yeah, they might have burned a bridge there. If they agree on a thing. Yeah. If they agreed on a deal, what's stopping him from backing out again? Type of thing. We should draft Keon Coleman. I'm okay with drafting Keon Coleman in the second round. I'm not okay with him in the first round. I got too many question marks about him, his ability to separate. I know the game speed is different than the combine 4.6 that he ran, or maybe it was like a 4.58 or something. But I don't know, man. I'm just staying away from Keon in the first. If we trade back into the second, I'd be cool with it. It's just Keon scares me a little bit. I don't know why. Marlon and Tyus should. I don't know there. What do you think about Marlon Humphrey? Man, let's talk about Marlon. This has been a juicy subject for a lot of Ravens fans. What sucks about this situation is really the last dominant type of season Marlon Humphrey had, I feel like, is 2019. He's played some good football since then, but I'm talking about like a dominating top tier corner. It's really been since like 2019 since we saw that. And he's dealt with some injuries, a lot of injuries, really. And when he has been on the field, sometimes he's gotten beat. Sometimes he's been the reason the Ravens have lost games. But I think with how much he fits in the locker room and how much the coaches love him, how much the ownership and the general management loves him, I don't know, man. I don't see us parting ways with Marlon Humphrey early. I think that he's going to play out his contract. And I think he's a great motivator, locker room guy. He brings the guys together. He's a gel guy, I'd like to say. And he still can play really good football. It's just he's been banged up at times. I think if he has a fully healthy training camp and season, he can show people why he's a top 10 corner in this league. But it's just been a while since we've really seen that consistently. We need a left tackle, don't we? We do. Ronnie Stanley, I'd love to think that he'll stay healthy all year. But it's just, again, kind of going back to Marlon Humphrey. It hasn't happened very frequently. Look like Xavier Worthy. I heard he drops the ball and we don't need that. Yeah. Xavier Worthy, I think someone said this really well the other day. Because he ran, broke the combine record in the 40-yard dash. It's like people are grading that twice, right? If you watch the tape of Xavier Worthy and you're like, man, this guy's fast. And then you had him as like a maybe top 50 guy, but not first round guy because he's smaller, doesn't get off press well, doesn't contested catch well, and he's 160 pounds. But you're like, man, he's really fast. And you see him run by guys on the field. He is really fast. That's true. But if you had a second round grade on him and then he goes to the combine, and again, he's really fast, just how you thought, he doesn't automatically become a first round top 20 type of guy, in my opinion. Like, you already knew that he was fast. Again, speed is really, really valuable, and it can, give you lighter boxes and everything, having him as a decoy, running off guys, running off coverages and stuff. But I'm not necessarily a Xavier round top 20 type of guy. Would I be mad if the Ravens drafted another receiver with some speed? I picked number 30. No, I wouldn't be mad. How do you think about Troy Franklin? I really like Troy Franklin's tape before I watched the combine. Then I watched the combine, and he didn't run the drills really smooth. Especially I remember watching the gauntlet drill, and he was weaving all over the place. He has had some drops on film, but I think he just had a bad combine, and I think he would be a good receiver, a good fit. He's fast and he's bigger. Excuse me. Yeah, man, Humphrey, he's a Raven. He's a Raven, man. He bleeds purple. Really hope that he stays healthy. How do you feel about Leggett? I love Leggett. I think Leggett has a little bit of AJ Brown in him. Big, physical. He really blew up the combine. His vertical jump was like 40 inches or something. His speed was like in the 4.3s at 238 pounds. Like, absolutely absurd. And you can work with that. He can break tackles. He can run routes. I love Leggett. I really do. I'd rather draft Leggett in the first round. I'd take Leggett over Worthy or Coleman, in my opinion. Hopefully we get Troy Fautanu. Him and Linderbaum would feast. Yeah, Fautanu's an absolute monster. Had himself a really good combine as well. Again, some people were saying he was a guard prospect because they thought he had shorter arms. Then he had like 34-inch arms, which was like in the 67th percentile for all NFL offensive tackles. And they were like, dude, what are you talking about? He's a guard. Like, no, he was a tackle the whole time. And some of that guard buzz, I think because of his kind of stocky, compact looking build, but he can move really well. And his arms were longer than a lot of people thought. I would love Fautanu. However, I don't think he'll be there. I think Fautanu's easily going top 15, top 20. Nope. And Leggett is good, but Coleman of the three has the best hands. Yeah, Coleman does have some good hands. I'll give him that. He's a contested catch monster, strong hands. It's just, something I've really thought about. A lot of Ravens fans were saying, we'll get to this here in a second, about Ladd McConkey. But a lot of Ravens fans have been saying, man, we need this big 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", contested catch monster, back shoulder guy, fade route in the end zone, right? That has not been Lamar Jackson's game. And I understand he hasn't necessarily had that receiver to develop that part of his game, but he has not been a contested catch, back shoulder type of guy. He likes to hit guys in stride over the middle of the football field. He likes to hit go routes. I just don't. Not that he. How do I say this? Because I don't want to make a lot of Ravens fans bad. Sometimes the arc of his throws, he doesn't always put up like a big arc on his throws, his trajectory. Sometimes when he throws the deep ball, he throws it a little bit flat, like on a line. And I don't think that's been his game. Not that he can't do it. I just don't think that's one of his strengths, to where a receiver like that, a contested catch, 50-50 back shoulder type of guy, has been a priority for the Ravens. That's just my thoughts on it. Noah, you can get caught up with the draft nerds about Coleman. I'm assuming you're saying that I don't. Because I don't like Coleman, that I need to get caught up. Everyone has their own opinion. I like Coleman's tape. The combine scared me a little bit. What's up, Tanja? It's good to see you, Tanja, longtime subscriber of the channel. What's up, guys? If Sutton is available, he will hit him. he did contest the catch with Hollywood Brown. Yeah, here and there. He also throws contested catches to the tight ends. Mark Andrews has caught a lot of 50-50 balls. So is Isaiah Likely. We saw the one against the Jaguars. That was a absolute highlight throw. Bring back Hollywood. Don't forget, Hollywood's a free agent. Another vertical threat, man, to the offense would not be a bad idea. Just saying. Darnell Mooney's out there. Guys in the draft like Keon Coleman, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell. Those are all vertical speedster type of threats. There's guys in free agency like Gabe Davis, like Darnell Mooney, like Hollywood, DJ Chark, who runs a 4.3. There's guys out there. If you want that vertical speed and they want to add more of that element to the offense, there's guys out there, whether it's in free agency or the draft. LJ is a dart thrower. Man, that's a good way to put it. That's kind of what I was saying. He throws on a line. He likes to hit guys in stride. He reads the middle of the field really well. He can hit the go ball, but he's not necessarily and he does layer the ball over like linebackers and stuff really well into like the intermediate part of the field. But the moon ball, like the Russell Wilson, air it out, let it kind of drop in the basket, some of the back shoulders, hasn't necessarily been his game. How do you feel about Adonai Mitchell and Todd Monken's offense? He's growing on me. Adonai Mitchell, I was watching some film, thought he looked a little bit clunky at times. But then there's some other times where he's really smooth. So that's part of being a 6'4" receiver that can run really fast. Maybe you'll look clunky at times because of how long your legs are. But again, doesn't always necessarily matter how you look as long as you get the job done. So if you guys are just joining the chat or the stream, I want to show you a couple of the free agents we talked about so far. DeAndre Swift, running back, Derrick Henry. And let's go back here. DeAndre Swift is my favorite running back target in free agency because of the Todd Monken connection in Georgia, because he has 1,400 receiving yards in his career. He was a workhorse back last year, 226 carries, over 1,000 yards. And he's fast. He's quick. He can square up, run in between the tackles. He can run the outside, the tosses, the sweeps. He has the RPO experience with Jalen Hurts. And he's not going to cost as much money as guys like Derrick Henry, who I would like, or Josh Jacobs, who I would also like. But my favorite target right now at the running back position is DeAndre Swift. And if you're not super familiar with his game, like DeAndre Swift isn't even that good, you need to go back and watch some DeAndre Swift. I watched a lot of DeAndre Swift. I'll admittedly tell you that I had him on my fantasy team. So anytime the Eagles were on, I'd be watching DeAndre Swift, and the guy can play football. He can break away. He can juke guys, make guys miss. He can catch passes. Go and watch some DeAndre Swift film. Come back, and if you still don't think he's good, cool. This is a good point. Baltimore Get Up says, for the flock, Keon Coleman reached a top speed of 20.36 during a gauntlet drill, the fastest speed by any receiver over the last 2 seasons. Impressive stuff. I will give him that. He looks really smooth on a straight line, looked effortless during a gauntlet. And he doesn't look slow on film. Like when he's on, game speed is different than combine speed. I understand that. And there has been other guys with slower 40s who've had success, like Allen Robinson, like who else? Tyler Boyd ran in the 4.5s. So yeah, I don't know, man. I go back and forth on Keon. I'll go watch some more, and I'll let you guys know. I do have some draft rankings I'm working on, and those will be out to you guys within the next few weeks. Henry and Lamar would feed families. It would be a scary idea to see those two guys in the same backfield. Henry could take over a football game. Henry and Lamar, that would be really fun. Tyler Boyd, kind of recapping some of the guys we talked about. Jadeveon Clowney, D'Amico Autry, Josh Uche. Again, some guys that aren't going to break the bank, but could still be really good, really productive football players. So, no Pollard, he says. Hollywood Brown for 2 years wouldn't hurt anyone. That would be absolutely wild if the Ravens got a first-round pick for Hollywood, got Tyler Linderbaum, and then brought back Hollywood into the offense with Tyler Linderbaum protecting Lamar Jackson, that would be just wild to see. He hit 20 and his hands were unquestionable while doing it. Basically pick your poison run game. I'll tell you what, man, I'm fired up to see Keaton Mitchell again, regardless of who else the Ravens have at the running back position, which again, they're going to add a guy. They're going to add a guy either early in the draft and or free agency. Absolutely. Not a doubt. Justice Hill is the only healthy running back on the Ravens right now. But when Keaton Mitchell comes back, I cannot wait to see him. That guy looked like a superstar in the making. Man, Keaton was an absolute monster. Hollywood is projected at $13 million. Yeah, I think Hollywood, he hasn't been elite since, we traded him away. But again, he's still highly productive. He's got vertical speed and receivers get paid. He's probably a little bit out of reach financially. Plus, I don't know if the Ravens would really do that after he asked to leave Baltimore. Keaton is small. I hope he can stay healthy with all those big boys. Yeah, it's a good point. All right, guys. So I wanted to come on here, talk some Ravens football because I missed you guys. Wanted to talk some free agency before it opens up in 2 days. So if you guys enjoyed today's stream, man, make sure to hit that like button. If you got any value out of today's content, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed and notification bells on. That boy, Derrick Henry, coming to the Ravens. I would not be mad at it. Man. That would be really fun. Yeah, guys. So we got, just so you guys know what's coming up, we got more mock drafts. We have our normal episodes of Ravens reports just to keep you up to date on all of your Ravens news. Appreciate you, Tanja. She says we misses you too, Noah. I say keep all the running backs and add Henry. Yeah. So appreciate you guys for coming on. Got a lot of content coming. Like I said, we've been super busy. I'm on a course right now at work that's been super demanding, but we will keep the content rolling for you guys. I can't wait to watch the draft with you guys, watch free agency with you guys. I love interacting with you guys in the chat and the comments. It's a lot of fun. So I love you guys. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.